What is up, and welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Savage, the coach of the Savage Turbos. The round 0 teams have just dropped, and oh my God, my pants nearly fell off. I fell off my seat, and I think I fell off my seat even more because my co-host right here, Grant McCartan, came in wearing the same shirt as me. How are you, Grant?
Hey, mate. Yeah, I'm good. My pants actually stayed up. I think there was something holding them up there when I saw the big red in the number 8, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, same shirts. Don't know if you got a new Nike sponsorship for the show. Is that?
Yeah, shout out to Nike. Use code Adidas. Fuck, that'd be a good idea, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love that.
Oh, I should hit up Picklebet, tell them use code SportsBet.
Yeah, declined.
How are you, though?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's been a few weeks since I was in here, and in those few weeks, a lot of things that we talked about came true. A lot of them have changed significantly, so I'm pretty excited to get into the round 0 team list.
You've been super coaching for a long time, and I think Team List Tuesday is always a massive, there's a lot of surprises. Feel like the more and more we get on with technology and journalists being in and around the camps, we get less and less surprises every year. I think we've got a couple here, to be honest.
Yeah. I think the thing is you're always going to have people's opinions or interpretations on what they're seeing structure. Like, you know, people who go to watch training, a lot of them are just watching and not understanding. It's just what they see, not what the coaches are talking about in huddles or behind closed doors. So
yeah. So for example, if we get news that Matty Nicholson's training with the starting side at right edge back row, that could mean he actually did. That's a bad example. You see Blake. Let's go with Isaiah Papali'i starting on the left edge.
Yep. Actually,
no, that's also a bad example. Let's just say like a utility 14. Dylan Walker training at left center.
Yep.
So say a journalist saw that in training.
Yep. In
the huddle, it could be like, okay, Dylan Walker's going to be our guy that fills in positions when someone is injured.
Yep.
So you're going to train in here for the next hour, get a few reps under the belt, and if something happens in game, you know, we'll train for this.
Exactly. You got to have contingencies, but someone only goes down to the ground for an hour on the week before the first game and sees that and goes, where's this person? They've disappeared. They're not training. Is there an injury? All they can do is speculate, and speculation is part of the fun of it. Admittedly, it's an entertainment industry,
good,
right?
Isn't it?
It is, but now we've got actual names on paper submitted by the team, so now we know.
So now the journalists are absolutely kicking their boots because they cannot speculate anymore. And now they're just harping on whether Hudson Young or Morgan Smithy started this punch up. So I actually did a podcast yesterday, our NRL show, and we speculated who we thought the Canberra players were because it wasn't...
You had to have guessed Hudson. Surely he was
I didn't guess Hudson.
Really?
I guessed Corey Horsburgh and Morgan Smithies.
That's fair.
And it's funny because Morgan Smithies is probably not the first guy, but my logic was Corey Horsburgh fighting for his starting position.
Yeah, look, I love it. But did you speculate on the weapon used? Did you go straight for
we didn't see
an
that.
inflatable?
We didn't see that.
What a storm in a teacup. I mean, seriously.
So we'll get them gutter stories coming out now. But we've got the facts in front of us. But firstly, if you want to take us on and win a SuperCoach Championship ring in the process, join our overall league code 544005. I haven't said it much on the podcast. I keep forgetting to do it. We already have like 1,200 people in there, so I think that's a pretty solid effort straight away. But we can do more. I think we got like 2,500 last year, so we'll try and get 3,000. So 544005. TLT. We're going to go through the team list. We're going to go through our top 5 buys from this particular team list, and then we're going to go through the top 10 most owned and just give our thoughts on that, and then wrap up the show. We'll do our captains and tipping point, which is it's going to be different this year because it's not just Timmy every week. It's going to be rotating. So
it's my debut. It's my tipping point debut.
Is it?
So I'm actually, I was pretty excited when I saw that was on the sheet today. So we'll see how I go.
I was nearly going to scrap it this year to try something different, but I think tipping points, it's got to be there.
I think it's good fun.
It is good fun. Everyone can play along at home as well. But this year it's going to be the co-host against me because obviously I'll be here every week, hopefully. But so you and the boys, Timmy, Mikey, and Hads, can put up a plan on how to hunt me down. I absolutely annihilated Timmy last year, but I threw him a lifeline, and I've still got to do that 24-hour Macca's challenge. So that'll come at some stage this
Pretty
year.
soft that you haven't done it, and it's disappointing. I was really looking forward to the footage from that. But I think what we should do is week to week, you just go straight, winner takes all, 1-0, and the scorecard over the year, we can work it out.
I think that's what we did.
Yep.
But Timmy, I threw Timmy a lifeline.
Well, that was it. You did help him out a bit.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's go to the team list. Round 0 in Vegas. I'm keen. 11 o'clock start at Allegiant Stadium. I'm keen. Me and Timmy are going to be at Panthers for the Levels event with Jim Beam. Raiders play Warriors for the Raiders. Kaya Weeks, Tamale and Savage on the wings. We've got Timoko and Seb Chris in the centers. Ethan Strange and Jamal Fogarty in the halves. Corey Horsburgh starts up front. We've got Tarpanay at starting front row as well. We've got Tom Starling starting. Hudson Young and Zach Hosking on the edges. Morgan Smithies at 13. We got Owen Paddy, Simi Sasangi, Josh Papali'i, and Ata Mariota from 14 to 17. What's your biggest takeaway from here, Grant?
I've got a few takeaways. The Big Red at 8. After we were talking to Mikey. What was it yesterday?
Mikey.
Shout out Mikey. Was it yesterday or the day before? And he's not the only one with this take. I've seen it across the board. Everyone kind of cooling on Hawes. He didn't trial. To me, him and Tapane being left out of that last trial said one thing. They were both ready to go. You don't, it's Tapane is one thing, right? He's a gun. But Horse has been at that level before. It's just he had a weird season last year, self-inflicted. He's mended bridges with Ricky, and the good thing about Ricky is I think he's a man's man like that. Like if you look him in the eyes and say I've buggered this up, he can accept that and move on. So I think Hawes he's going to be huge. He has to be in your side, doesn't he?
Oh, 100%. In 2023, when I did really well, I bought him at like 400K, and he averaged like 65 for the year or something like that. So every week, it wasn't attacking stats. It's just his motor. He's got such a big motor for such a big lad. And the comments, like Mikey said, he was a bit cold on Corey Horsburgh.
Yep.
And I kind of get why someone who hasn't kind of watched all what's going around happening.
Yep.
But Ricky pretty much said, I wouldn't be surprised if Corey Horsburgh plays Origin this year. And that, as you said, told me all I need to hear.
Absolutely.
He's starting front row. And obviously Papali'i's the dominant front rower. It looks like he's going to be reduced minutes this year. Yep. This is Corey Horsburgh's year to bounce back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and in the case of Josh Papali'i, he's lost minutes every year for the last 5 years. It's no secret. He's moving on. Horse is a young forward. He should have been able to continue what he did last year. He didn't, but I don't think that changes him. I don't think it makes him less of a SuperCoach option. He still averaged 45 in 45 minutes last year. It's just he didn't have the minutes in the games, and when he did, he had a few brain explosions along the way.
And he's also priced at 36.
Yeah, I mean, you almost can't lose, right? Worst case, he averages that 45 minutes as a starting front rower, and you make your 100K and you move on if you need to. The other ones I noticed, no Nicholson, you mentioned. I think, he training there all off-season. Hosking is a gun, and I'm surprised Nicholson doesn't have a bench spot, but they've obviously gone 3 middles, which means the 2 edges look likely to play longer minutes. Mariota can play both, but I can't see them maybe resting Hosking for a little bit.
Sasangi can as well.
Yeah, true. But the way I see that team lining up, they've got to use those minutes in the middle. That's what I think. And then the one that a fair few people have been keen on, Owen Paddy in the 14. I don't know what to make of it minutes-wise yet. I'm assuming he starts in a pretty small minutes role, maybe 20. But, geez, that's an exciting combo, those two. That they're going to be tough to defend around the ruck the whole 80 minutes. Yeah,
it's going to be very exciting. I think Owen Paddy is a SuperCoach option. Let's look at him first of all. 198K. Obviously bottom dollar at hooker, and you kind of want that at hooker. I think he's going to be a very slow burn. I think he will pick up minutes later in the year. I think what Ricky wants is Tom Starling to be a bench guy, but obviously you're not going to pick Danny Levi over Tom Starling. If you want Owen Paddy in the side, this is how you're going to do it. I think the start of the year, it's going to be Starling 60, Paddy 20. I think it's going to shift by the end of the year.
Yep. And one of the issues with these guys playing week 1 or week 0 is we don't know what's going to happen with some of the other hookers and how their benches are going to be named. There's a a whole bunch of them that we can run through it at some point today if we need to, but and next week. But I just talked to you pre-show about an idea that I've had, which is, and I know that people that play the American sports might know what a handcuff is. It's where you basically, you could do something like picking Galvin and Latu Fainu at 6 this year. I think that's been talked about a little bit. Effectively, the person who you start with someone, and whoever's going to take their minutes or take their role, if that happens, you start with them behind them in that spot. So if Starling goes down injured in round 1, you've already got Owen Paddy. You don't have to play Paddy most weeks because hopefully Starling's playing that 60. Could get to a 40-minute split and it gets tough, but it's an option.
I think that's my only issue with the Galvin, Latu Fainu type situation. Latu Fainu probably comes straight in, and I mean, Dewey makes it tricky, doesn't he? Because he can fill into 5'8", so it's probably not the perfect example. But with Tom Starling and Owen Paddy, if one of them gets injured, then Danny Levi probably comes onto the bench as well and splits them time as well. So it's a bit tricky not knowing what the minute situation is going to be like. We know the Ricky roulette's massive. Ricky's been really good in easing his youngsters through, like Chevy Stewart, Ethan Strange, or the likes of that. So I think he's going to do a good job with managing Owen Paddy, and whether that's giving him a couple of weeks off here and there just to refresh the body, I think will be what we see from him. But obviously he's a talent, and I think by the end of the year he will be a good player. But starting with him, do you think a lot of these other hooker cheapies are probably a touch better? Honestly, 140k more. I like Tom Starling, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I got no issue with that. I think that most of what you said there is pretty fair, especially resting his body at times. They've got Danny Levi. Look, he's not great, but he's still capable of filling in a 20-minute bench role, which is what Paddy will start at. I like other hookers better. We'll talk to that throughout the show. The only other thing I want to touch on here, and I hope it doesn't take us off topic, just the Tamale news, him starting. We all kind of knew that was probably going to happen. I think it doesn't change the fact that Albert Hopewade is still sniffing around. I can't start with Tamale. I can't start with Paddy either, but round 3, you've got 6 trades between now and then. You can rectify things very quickly. If you're missing, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 cheapies, you can fix that very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Tamale's been in my side all preseason, but obviously with Finau coming out and killing it, and obviously now they've got up to Finau, I'll probably go to like a Jesse Arthurs maybe if I have to.
Savs,
no, but if Finau doesn't get named, like that's my contingency. With Tamale, I was ready to cop the 1 week and then just wait the next 2 weeks. But if you can avoid doing that, and now we know Jackson Purdue's locked in, so we've got 2 genuine cheapies there, I think you can avoid going Tamale. Now that we know doing that, I like the potential opportunity to downgrade him later on when he does kind of play his 3rd games. So I think the strategy of people starting with someone who they think is going to get a go, like a lot of people did it with Jacob Gagai last year, not knowing he'd get as many games as he did. They knew he might get 3 eventually, but Tane Milne wasn't named, so they're wondering for him to come back. I don't like it because I think when you've got enough cheapies going around, you've got Iongi, Duffy, Purdue, Toya, like there's enough cheapies going around that you don't need to go one of these guys, and you're killing yourself for later on when he's the perfect downgrade option, but you've already got him.
Absolutely. And news that happened just before the show, I don't know if you caught it because you were driving in here. Shibasaki, who hasn't been added to SuperCoach yet, but I'm expecting will be that 232k sort of price. He now has Katoni Staggs also injured 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know if that's 4 to 6 weeks from from the weekend injured, and it means that he would only miss 2 or 3 rounds. But he was already firming to play at centre. That's only going to help him. I think I wouldn't be, put it this way. The reason I said Tamale is I wouldn't be having Tamale this week when you got a decent shot at Shibasaki, who isn't a world beater by any stretch, but he's going to be similar price, and that's, there's so much more flexibility next week. Maybe we can talk tactics after the team lists of what to do with players this week versus the fact we got 6 games next week. And
it's pretty tricky. Like I feel like I want to lock heaps of people in that are on my radar this week, but I don't know. I feel like next week we're going to get a lot more, to be honest. Like now we've got Finau, we've got Purdue, we've got Toya, Now you've got an extra one in Shibasaki, which filters onto your starting side now because you can only have 3 on the bench. I don't know if I like that because my build the whole preseason has been everyone's been above 400k in my center wing. So it's definitely something to think about. And we've got cheapies in the second row. To be honest, do you need to be going Yongi when all these cheapies are
That's what I'm starting
themselves?
to see. That's what I'm starting to think.
Yeah.
And or do you need to go Iongi and Duffy? Probably not.
Oh, definitely not. But to be fair, they both look like great players.
Absolutely.
So
Agree. Trialled very well.
Yeah, so it is pretty hard. Maybe you're loading up on a position like hooker that you think these cheapies aren't that great. You can go double gun 5/8. You can load up all the center wing spots you have available and the second row spots you have available. You can go double gun front rower. Like, there is ways to go about this.
There's what it's looking like more and more is that there's more cheapies than a normal year. And my theory on that, what I've been saying to a few people close to me, is there's been more coaching changes and style changes at clubs than I've seen in. I can't even tell you the last time I've seen this many coaching changes. So whenever there's coaching changes, you get opportunities for people, whether they're new or old, whatever it may be, you get opportunity. And this year, there's how many coaching changes? There must be 5.
No, I think there's only 3. Like, so Wayne Bennett, right?
Yep.
Wayne Bennett to the right. Oh, well,
but
4,
Bennett's
4.
gone
Bennett,
from, which means
Christian Wolf.
Yeah.
Jason Riles.
Yep.
And Madge Maguire.
Yep.
Is that it?
Off the top of my head, I'll agree with you, but I
think
that's a lot in one season.
Yeah, there's also like, I guess you can kind of count Shane Flanagan. He's trying to build his roster, so another year on from building his roster. Yep. So all these new guys that he had coming in that he signed are now coming in and getting opportunities.
And then you look at turnover. So you look at like the Roosters and the Titans and stuff like that. Players coming back, players style, as I said, style change. The Titans going away from foreign, Cowboys, a lot of turnover. Like, I don't think I've seen recently this much sort of change in the NRL. And change for Supercoaches means opportunity, which means generally we have a lot of cheapies, more than normal.
And like also, I feel like every other year, Phoenix Crossland would be like top of the priority list for cheapies. And because we have so many hookers, like the hooker turnover this year is crazy. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple of players. We've gone over Tamale. We've gone over Owen Paddy. Hudson Young's a gun. We've talked about him in the second row forward episode. But Zach Hosking, we weren't really expecting him to play round 1, 513k. Last year, he started the season on fire. And he averaged 85 in his first 3 rounds of 92, 109, 52. And then obviously injury affected him for the rest of the year. But that's a pretty small sample size. We saw at Penrith, kind of did the same thing. Do you see a world where he could be a nice little person to take flyer on early?
Yeah, I think he's a great pod early at the price. He's I just don't know why he hasn't had an extended run anywhere. Like, what there's got to be some reason behind it. Every time he plays, he looks a gun. Like, he has a style a bit similar to Jacob Preston, where it's not all rampaging runs or anything super special, but he accumulates points for Supercoach so well. I think he's a wait and see for me. But yeah, there's a world for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree. With the split rounds, I don't want to be putting all my eggs in the Canberra basket, to be honest.
We'll talk to that tactic after team list.
Not much else doing here. Is there anyone that catches your eye? KO Weeks, named at fullback as expected, 530k.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have their eye on KO. I just think there's just been so many options. If in other years, I reckon he'd be, a top 3, especially in the 5/8 role.
If Metcalf wasn't there,
yeah,
I think we'd genuinely be talking about
Absolutely. him. In so many other years, he'd be a great option. I still think he's a great option this year.
Yep.
I think this might be one of those seasons where you actually need to use as many of those 6 trades as you can early, because up till, and by 6 trades, I mean with your boost up to round 3 before price changes, or round 4 if you're including Titans players and the other teams that are on the bye. So you
got to get it right.
I think so, but I think this year might be okay to trade hard. Like, I think there's a lot of 50-50 options in the same price bracket, and if you get it wrong, you just got to know when to cut your losses. You don't want to go too early, so you want it to be like, oh, he's got nowhere near the minutes I expected or nowhere near the role I expected. not, the Raiders had a bad week 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's where I would
And
go.
this is where it becomes important. You've got to watch the games.
Yes.
You've got to watch the games and see why they're scoring no points. Like, did the other team just have the ball so much, but he looked pretty good every time he ran the ball, so things will go in their favour. Just, you've got to make sure you watch the games, and like, if you're listening to people, make sure they're watching the games as well. Like, I did the trial wrap up on Sunday. I didn't watch many games, to be honest. I was looking at it from a SuperCoach point of view, but now round 1 has come around. I'll watch every single game to make sure I'm getting that eye test, because I think you get a bit misled in trials, but round 1 is the best way to tell things. Let's head over to the Warriors, because I think we've talked enough about the Raiders, which is probably the least SuperCoach relevant team on this list.
I actually think they're
pretty
sneaky,
relevant.
pretty irrelevant
Yeah.
just because of options, but we'll save some time in the next game maybe, I think.
100%. Chance Nickel clocks out at fullback. We've got Tane Tulpiki has won that wing spot over for Dallin, who's injured. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on the other wing. What a back 3, to be honest. Ali Leotawa is the centre wing, and Adam Pompey. We've got Chanel Harris-Tavita, No Tamari Martin, Luke Metcalf, number 7, James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett up front, Wade Egan at hooker, Kurt Capewell and Murata Niokore on the edges. Aaron Clark starts at 13. We've got Dylan Walker at 14, Jackson Ford, Dimitri Kavalmega, Leka Halasima. What's the biggest standout here for you? I've got a couple, to be honest.
Yeah, no, there's a few. This is another one worth talking about. I think the biggest one probably that stands out is Chanel has leaped TMM, at least from the team structure-wise, because he didn't trial there. Well, sorry, he didn't start in the trials there, and I don't know where that one's come from. That's another one of those ones where the journalists don't get everything right. So, I think that's the biggest one. I think most of it was fairly predictable. The 4-forward bench, no Jacob Laban. He's didn't even make the reserves. So I don't know. I don't know if he's injured or something like that. But to me, it just looks like kind of what I thought they'd go. Wade Egan, maybe 80 in round 1. And
yeah, it looks like a no Freddie Lussick, but
Sam Healy in the 18. That's in. I mean, look, that looks to me like he's going to progress into the Owen Paddy role for the Raiders. Like he might have leaped Freddie Lussick, and probably rightly so. He's looked good in the trials.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I've got at the moment as standouts.
I guess back to So Chanel Harris-Tavita. We thought we weren't going to get a cheapie at 5'8". We've now all of a sudden got a cheapie at 5'8", 330K. And, I'm starting with Dylan Brown. I've been set on that for so long, and now we've got a cheapie at 5'8". I think personally he's priced at 33. He had enough games at 5'8" last year to prove himself. Obviously, probably having a full preseason helps. But let me get his stats up here and see how many minutes he played.
Yeah, that's fine. He's a great defender, and
Yeah,
I wonder if TMM has not put a foot wrong since he's got into the side last year. No matter what position he's been asked to play, he's been excellent. So I just wonder if maybe it's a defensive thing. Maybe Webster's recognised that defensively they're a bit frail on that side. I don't know. I genuinely don't know where that one's come from, and I don't know anyone who's actually mentioned that was likely at all from any source throughout the whole preseason.
Well, we actually thought that potentially Tanner Boyd could get a spot
That's exactly
5'8".
right.
So I'm actually calculating what his average was playing 80 minutes. So just give me a second right
I had a bit
here.
of a look.
And it actually looks pretty good, although he played an 88-minute game here
For 8.
For 8 points.
He averaged 52. I've got it for you, if that helps.
How'd you get that? So
I'd already done it before. So.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
When did you do
sure.
that?
I did it when I saw it, in the team lists.
Oh, well, you're prepared. 56.7.
You had enough. I got the 70-minute games where he got sin-binned as well.
Oh yeah,
as
I didn't do the 70-minute game.
Yeah. So one of them he got sin-binned, one he only played 70. So.
Oh well, that's why he played 70.
Yep.
Right.
So, I don't know where that's come from.
Pretty good.
Oh no,
I guess.
so if your team structure requires a cheapie 6, I just think you can't pair him with Metcalf. They've got the buy in round 5, so if you want to get one price rise and then jump to someone else, I think you can go one of Metcalf or CHT, and I know which one of them has more security, even though they're a bit more expensive.
Yes. I've got an alternative there for you. Put Dylan Brown at halfback, and then you can swap him and Metcalf around, because Metcalf will get the dual flexibility on Thursday.
Yep.
So there's a way to go about it. Obviously, if you're going to go double gun halfbacks, you're probably going to go Cleary Hines. But
Yep.
I actually showed you a structure the other day where I didn't have either Hines or Cleary just for early on. But my way to them was Metcalf through Dylan Brown going back to 5'8". I don't mind that structure still, but I don't want to rely on having to trade them in. So I'm going one of them still.
Yeah, look, I actually have played with that as well because I like the Metcalf. I've had Metcalf and Brown in mind, and we'll get to my team at some point in this.
Yep.
But the only issue I have with that is at the moment I've got Duffy, but with, again, the more teams change, the only issue is you lock into CHT this week and Duffy pops with Clifford playing Q Cup somewhere, and then you have to get. Then there's a trade I've already got to make, CHT or someone to Duffy at some point probably, unless the rest of my team works out.
Question.
Yes.
Obviously, a lot of us are going double cheapy hooker, or we're going somewhere else. I think there's enough cheapies in second row and centre wing, so you're probably not boosting your side there. What are your thoughts on potentially going CHT instead of a gun 5'8" and just lock in a Harry Grant early on?
Yeah, like it.
Because all preseason, we've known that we're going to get these cheapy hookers. We didn't know we were going to get this cheapy 5'8".
Yep. No, I like it. I think it's really good. Only concern with Harry is round 2 bye, but there's no other. He has no other concerns, unlike a lot of the other hookers who have at least 3 or 4 that you can think of.
Yep. Interesting. Like eye test and just vibe, Chanel Harris-Tavita is not a SuperCoach friendly type player. I think he can score well. Obviously, averaging 57 is pretty good, playing 80 minutes last year. But yeah, I think he's in there for defense, and obviously the style they're going to go. So maybe they overachieve this year a bit if that's what they're focusing on. Yeah,
well, I have the Warriors in my bottom 4 at the moment. I think I said that last time on the show. But if that's what they're looking at, and they've got those 2 big boys up front, and those guys are going to instill some sort of principles around that sort of defensive side of the game. They've done the same thing in their back row. They haven't played one of those young guys, which everyone was kind of thinking maybe Nick Corrade start on the bench
play through the middle.
It looks like they've gone for a very, very strong defensive forward pack and then a defensive 6. I can honestly see them being quite hard to beat if that's the structure that they're planning on playing.
Yeah, well, I'm actually tipping the Canberra Raiders this weekend.
So was I, but now I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more low scoring than we think it's going to be. Aaron Clark, 391k. Oops, I'm kicking. Sorry, I did this last time. I shouldn't be kicking I'll just take that off.
That's good.
Sorry, just kicking the cords and making everything go everywhere. Aaron Clark, 390k, available at front row forward. He's currently in my side. I like him at the price. Obviously, I've gone a bit cold on Nafahu White, just based on him coming off the bench. But Spencer Leniu's probably going to get suspended, and then Nafahu White becomes an option next week. So, but Aaron Clark starting at number 13, obviously playing for a hot Warriors side, defending in the middle. Think he can potentially just tackle over 40 tackles a game, have attacking upside. He played 2 games last year in the 13 role, playing over 50 minutes, I'm pretty sure, and he scored average 60. So what are your thoughts on him?
Well, his base power has gone up substantially since his move from 9 to 13. At 9, he was pretty much a tackle bot. At 13, he actually does like to carry the ball. He's added a little bit to his game. He trialled really well. He's been in my side on and off, but mostly on in the preseason because I was certain he was going to find 50 minutes. But that 4 forward bench scares me away. I'm sure Samuel Healy will come in. It might even be this week. They might just be hiding him a little bit or looking after him a bit for one of the Valmaga or Halasima. But I just can't. I can't touch him with a 4 forward bench, and even with a 3 middle bench with those 2 big minute middles. I was thinking he was going to play 50 minutes. Now I'm thinking he might not be far off what he played last year, 40 minutes. His PPM's okay. Like his base power and his PPM's pretty good. I can see him average, his average will not be less than what it was last year. I just don't see the same upside I saw pre these team lists.
And I guess Aaron Clark's the type of player that really interests us every preseason just because of the way he plays.
Yeah.
But it just seems like the minutes never eventuate, and maybe that's just because of a reason. Obviously, he has got the starting role for a reason. Maybe Webster thinks he's has high regards for him. So I think maybe he's the one where you just sit back, wait and see. And, there's heaps of mid-range second rows that we're all going after. If any of them fail, you can go down to Aaron Clark if he absolutely kills it and then move him into the front row later on or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you start with, if one of the middles goes down there, one of the Fisher Harris or Barnett, then I'll look at him really hard, because then I think he gets another easy 10 minutes.
Good thing is, first game, if Healy comes onto the bench, then do you think differently?
I would think differently, but I don't if that adds another 5. If he's going to get 50 minutes, he makes 100K guaranteed, pretty much, because he will be over 1 ppm this year. I just don't know right now how he does get 50 locked in that, because we know Dylan Walker, whether he plays on the bench or at lock, he'll play decent minutes. He might. Aaron Clark might play more than him.
Yep. But
Walker will find enough minutes that Clark then has to get some at prop to be relevant, and then there's so many middles there. I don't see it right now. Yep. Even Ford's transition to being more of a middle. What I would say is, if Niokore or Capewell lose minutes on their edges, then he becomes interesting as well. I think he needs a few things to go right for him to become really interesting, but he's safe as well. He's not going to lose you money, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, for sure. Tane Tuapiki named on the wing, 459K. Available at fullback, not centre wing. Potentially gets that duel tomorrow, but obviously there hasn't been heaps to talk about. He's filling in for injury. I like the look of him. I probably don't want to touch him at the price. I like Roger a bit more, potentially, but I still don't like Roger that much. And also, Ali Leotawa at 513,000. There's all these options. Ali Leotawa is actually in my side at the moment. Very excited for him on that left edge. Historically, the left edge hasn't got much ball. I'm a bit concerned because Luke Metcalf looks like he'll play right, and he looks like the dominant halfback. But he did sweep quite a bit in the trial, so that gives me hope. Leotawa killed it. What's your kind of ranking here?
I think Leotawa will play right centre.
Oh, really?
Yep, and I think it'll be.
Pompey's a left centre usually.
Pompey will be left inside of two, so it'll be Tuapiki and Ali Leotawa on the same side. I think.
Like it.
So that helps you. What's my ranking? If I was taking out money and everything like that, I think I'd have to go Roger, but not for the reason a lot of people are. I don't think his runs will go up. I don't think his base stats will go up like everyone's saying on the wing. Like, he averaged very similar base power on the wing or at centre last year and previously in his career. I think he'll score more tries, more attacking stats probably. So I think Roger will average a little bit more. Leotawa averaged 58, I believe, in 80-minute games last year.
58 and 80-minute games. Yeah.
So I think there's already upside in him. I don't think it would be a struggle to say that he'll average in the late 50s minimum again.
That's a lie. He averaged 53.8 in 80-minute games. He had a 67-minute game for 75, which bumped his average up a little bit.
All right. Well, I'll include it because he should have played 80 in that one. No, I think if I was doing it, I'd say RTS just, Leotawa, and then Tuapiki fairway behind. If you need that 40K, I'm not against. I think Leotawa could average within a few points of Roger.
Yeah. I've currently got him on my side based on I like Leotawa and I want Leotawa. Talent, and I think going the up and coming talent it's a risk worth taking sometimes. Trying to go like a Marju, although I think Marju is a very good purchase this year. Going someone expecting a bounce back is, I think that hits a lot less than the upcoming talent breaking out.
That's fair.
That's the way I'm looking at it. And yeah, for the Warriors, not much else. Luke Metcalf probably locked into most sides who are listening to this podcast anyway. So Mitch Barnett, obviously. Actually, I was keen on Fisher Harris all preseason with that 4-4 bench, obviously. Same thing as Aaron Clark. Mitch Barnett, I also like. But yeah, not much else here. We done there?
I think so.
All right, cool. Moving on to Penrith play the Sharks. And I've put money on the Sharks to win before team lists come out. Put $100 through Picklebet. Use the code TURBO when signing up. They are at $2.40 at the moment. But make sure to know what you're really gambling with. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858. I've got the Panthers here. Dylan Edwards at fullback. Casey McLean and Paul Alamotti on the wing. We've got Luke Garner and Isaac Tungo in the centres. Jack Cole and Nathan Cleary at halfback. Moses Leota and Lindsay Smith gets the start at Penrith side. Mitch Kenny starts. Scott Sorensen and Liam Martin on the edges. Isaiah Yeo starts at lock. We've got Dane Laurie at 14. Isaiah Papali'i on the bench. Matt Eisenhuth and Luron Patea.
I think
there's quite a bit here, eh?
There is. This is, and look, this when I alluded to it earlier, this was not the team that I was saying is boring. That would be their opponents, but we'll cover that last. Interesting for me, Liam Henry's out injured, so I think that's the Patea or Eisenhuth spot. That's pretty self-explanatory. Papali named on the bench, does not many starts there, but is named there. Everyone kind of expected Sorensen to move into the middle to help with depth there, but Penrith keeps producing middles and keeps producing really good ones. I understand why Sorensen's starting there. So I think Soro's been excellent when he's got minutes on that edge, and I completely... look, I'm not Ivan Cleary, but I completely agree. I know that's hard to tell. Completely agree with that. I think Isaiah Papali'i was brought in as someone who... Like, they already had a stacked forward pack, and if things went wrong this offseason or injuries occur, like, he'll step straight into a big minute role. I still think he'll play lots of minutes, but I think Penrith have shown that they're going to trust their guys that have been there in the system. He might start at some point, and Sorensen may move to the bench, but I think it's a good move for them right now.
Oh, sorry. You know what's funny? Because I was kind of arguing with Timmy quite early on. I might have even had the conversation with you, just thinking these Penrith players coming in, Isaiah Papali'i and Blaise Talangi, I feel like they're going to get drip-fed into the side. They've never really just put someone straight into the starting side. They've always had to really show what they're worth, and, you know, they get a bite of the cherry. They get a chance when injuries occur, and that's when they lock down their position. Yep. Timmy kind of made the argument that Isaiah Papali'i is a New Zealand international, so he kind of deserves to walk in and do that. But I guess so is Scott Sorensen and Liam Martin.
Absolutely.
They can't walk into that position straight away. So Penrith are sticking to their processes exactly, and I think this is why they probably do well this year, because you're going to have guys like Blaise Talangi and Isaiah Papali'i really peaking later than a lot of people at the start of the year will, and that'll just give them another extra boost of energy. So I think Isaiah Papali'i, I wasn't keen on him to start this year, 580k. He's always been available at front row. Available at second row this year, I think people are a bit blinded by the fact that he was a good Supercoach option at front row only.
Wouldn't be a bad thing if he does start on the bench now and has to play or does play primarily through the middle and gets that duel at some point. Like, it actually could help us. He could lose some money now. And he could be a pickup at a point when we, pre-origin or even sooner. In the front row. It's actually a better opportunity for us. And this is what you were talking about earlier. It's these guys, sometimes you don't actually want all of them to land in TLT. You actually need it to be staggered a little bit. And he could be a perfect guy to pick up at, say, 500k at some point.
Oh, I'm hoping a bit cheaper, to be honest. He's coming through the middle, but I'm excited to see Penrith run out this week. Jack Cole at number 6. I've talked about him a little bit. Actually, you were here for the Halves podcast, and we're quite high on him, actually. I think with Blaise Talangi lurking on that bench, but, Jack Cole has a point to prove now. He wants to hold on to that starting spot. He knows Blaise Talangi's breathing down his neck. I think, there's a good chance he could be thinking, I can lock down this number 6. Blaise Talangi was an outside back coming through, or fullback coming through. I'm going to make them put him somewhere there. Put them somewhere there.
I think we talked about it in the Halves podcast because I was mentioning guys who have really strong base power in that spot. He's one of them. Averaged over 40 in base power last year. Very good for a 6, especially a young one. Very good defender. Again, would not shock me if Ivan's gone. He's been in the system. He knows our defensive structures. We've got Nath. He's fit, or he's fit enough, and Jack's job is to keep that left edge tidy, and we'll let Nath run the show. I think that's, again, genius. It's typical Penrith.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was listening to the fan bunker that the TAB did with Laurie Daly, Justin Horrow, Willie Mason, and they had a couple of fans in there.
When they got the live news that Cam Murray was injured.
Oh, that was actually really wild listening to it as well, because you don't realize, the coach is usually on the other side of this, and you're like, what was their reaction? I reckon he kept way more composed than
very well
he would have had to.
They're humans too, aren't they? Right? Like
Yeah.
the fact that he was able to keep composed was very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually really excited for Laurie this year. I think I'm excited for him in Origin Arena. But they were talking about Cameron Ciraldo and how he like come up with this defensive structure, and it's so like meticulous in the way they go about it. So like if their hips just turn in the wrong position or something, then they'll get sprayed or whatever.
Yep.
So it is a big and long process that they have to go through to actually really nail this and be part of the system. So Jack Cole's been part of that for a few years, so he might get a little bit of a run there. Casey McLean starts on the wing, and you were telling me earlier that potentially that they've been training Paul Alamotti on the left wing, so it will be Casey McLean at centre after when Brian To'o comes back.
Yeah,
Bit
so
harsh for To'o, he's missed out on Vegas.
Oh, very, but I suppose he's done pretty much everything. I hope he's travelled over there. I hope so for his sake.
He would.
But what that means is no Jesse McLean. So they've gone again. They've obviously looked at their defensive structures and looked at Canberra's centres and gone, who the hell are we going to play in there and what are our structures on each side? And they've decided that Garner's their best defensive option. He will play on the left up against Jesse Ramian. Ramian's a handful. He had a great year last year. Alamotti can defend as well. He actually had a really good year at centre last year. Maybe it just says that Jesse's not quite as close to a spot as he looks like. I don't know.
You know what it says to me? Like, you know how we talk about the Penrith drop-off?
Yep.
And how, they lost Taruva, who was massive in yardage. I don't think Casey McLean in yardage is as much of an issue. They just target him all the time if he started on the wing, which I reckon we'll see on the weekend. So he'll get a lot of ball on the weekend. But Alamotti's a big body.
Bigger body, yep.
Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Alamotti. Who do you kick to?
Yeah.
I think that they're sticking to their systems, which is what really helps them. Their forward pack doesn't matter. They're going to defend their dicks off. I think this is exciting, in my opinion.
No, I like it. Look, Garner, so what my understanding is that it'll be Tago and To'o on the right and McLean at centre and Alamotti on the left wing. That was not that came from Isaiah Papali'i, an article in NRL.com.
Yep.
So Papali'i said that's how they've been training in the preseason. So this is no surprise. The surprise is McLean's on the right wing, but that's a stopgap option. My understanding is he'll move to left centre, and that's how they'll run out throughout the year. So great call on the yardage out of the back. Who do you kick to? There's no weak link there.
And I think we've seen in the past, like James Fish-Harris doesn't really attacking stats wise, run meters. He doesn't really pile up the stats too much. It's always their back three. So I think they're sticking to that, and I like the way they've gone about that. And I think they'll be okay. They'll defend in the middle, and they're picking these guys because of the defensive structure. But for SuperCoach, I like a lot of these guys. But I'll tell you what I also like. I also like when I get my tax done because you get a good lot back. Some people don't. Some people might not like getting their tax done. But if you want your tax done this year, then hit up Kyle McGrath. His number is 0401 044 839. He can do capital gains, business taxes, or all I haven't got the spiel here. I'm sorry.
What can't he do is basically what you're saying.
He's based in Queensland. He's a super coach. He sponsored the Champions podcast last year. He's come on board this year, sponsored us. If you want to get your tax done by a guy who's part of the lads, he can do it over FaceTime. And I'll tell you what, the most annoying thing that I think in tax time is having to book the appointment and go there in person, park in the busy street, and having to find a park. You come out with a parking fine. It's ridiculous. Just do it over the phone, over FaceTime with Kyle McGrath. He'll sort you out. He'll give you the best legal tax return that he can for a flat rate of $110, whether it's business related. If you mention our podcast, that's what he does. So hit up Kyle McGrath on that number. His link is in our bio. And I'm probably going to get him to do my tax this year because Timmy's rated him highly.
Well, if Timmy says it's good by me.
Yeah, well, Timmy is the man. Anything else for Penrith?
Well, SuperCoach options. I mean, Casey McLean, I think, is an option now that he's named at left centre, although that's not Cleary's preferred side. I think Tago. I know Tago's gone. Everyone's gone real cold and real quiet on Tago. I just think they've got a bad draw early. I don't want too many Panthers.
Yeah.
But he will come good. He will be an option at some point if Nath's fit on that right edge. I love Nath. He's in my side.
He's in your
Where
side.
are you standing at the moment? Are you on Nath or are you on Hines at the moment? I know you've flip-flopped a bit, but you mostly lent Hines.
I'm on Hines, but their draw is pretty tricky early on. I think the Sharks will come out and do well this year, especially early on. They got the Sharks, the Roosters. You know, Nathan could probably ton up against the Roosters, to be honest.
I don't know. They've looked pretty good in the preseason.
Yeah,
so.
right. And then they have Storm round 3. So, you know, I'm pretty happy to fade him against the Storm. But then straight after he has the Rabbitohs, the Cowboys, the Dolphins. I think you've got to have him by round 4. Are you better off just getting him by round 1?
I mean, that's what I've lent the whole season. As I said, when we talked Hines v Cleary in the preseason, and my thoughts haven't changed, the reason I've lent Cleary is I don't see a role improvement for Hines. I think he's in a similar structure. I think there's a huge touches role enhancement for Cleary. That means that even if there's a tough draw for a bit, I might have to take my lumps in a couple of the early rounds, but I'm back in not having to use a trade for a while and just sitting there and waiting for that big score. And it could be the Roosters in round 2. You're right.
Yeah.
It could actually be the Roosters then.
And by fading Cleary, you're going to get him in by round 4. And like that anxiety in my head just thinking about it, it worries me a little bit.
If it was if he had like in the first 5 rounds, he had, say, 4 of the top, all the other top 4 or something like that, I would agree with you. Like, I would say round 5 or round 6 is around the right time if you want to fade him, because that's a long enough time. But fading someone till round 4 is really hard.
To be honest, like there's only 3 teams that he could play against that I would be worried that he doesn't do well.
Yeah.
All the other sides he could go berserk against. So Melbourne's one of them. I think he can still do very well against them. The Sharks this year are probably one that I think, I'm just a bit hesitant to play people against the Sharks. I think when they're hot in defense, they're really good.
Yep.
The Bulldogs are probably the other one if they keep it up this year. But the Roosters, I'm not scared of at all. So I think I'll be very scared in that second round. The thing is, with Hines, there's so many more teams that I'm not confident in him playing. Like bottom 8 teams, so confident in playing him. But the thing is, Hines is priced at a 75 average. He averaged over 85 without the injury-affected game. So for me, there's a lot of value there. But is he the sort of player that you get in when he becomes hot? Is that the way you go about it? And Cleary's just the guy you just plug and play? Or
do you have to look at... I know, and I get why... as I said, I've had Dylan Brown in my side. I get why you'd have him maybe as your backup 7. We were talking about how there's so many more cheapies, or we think there are going to be. Do you just have to bite the bullet and pay 70 grand more and just... or what, as 90 grand, whatever Hines is, and just start with both of them? And then maybe you have to start with Aongi and you don't get... is it... you got to toss up Walsh versus Hines or something like that? Do you just start with both of them and just go, no more headaches for me for however long? I don't know. I don't know at the moment what the right way to do is. I think the only issue is if you go both of them, you're locked into both of them because they both play this week.
Yeah.
No flexibility to see what the other 6...
I'm definitely not going both of them.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on skimping out in front row, going like Ben Takura and Royce Hunt in order to... Or,
are you changing your team? Are you changing your team right now to try and ask this?
I am.
You might have to make this a Patreon special or a little message, a voice message at some point for everyone.
So I do my team reveal, which comes out on Thursday or Friday. I've got AJ Brimson in my side, and he's my fourth center wing. I've got Leotawa. I can just do my team reveal right now.
Right.
And I've got Skelton. So one of these guys I can drop.
Yeah.
Very droppable. And I've only got 20K in the bank to go up to actually, no, I've got 50K in the bank because I'm not starting with Aaron. Oh, my God. I'm all over the place.
How about you just think about it?
Cleary's in my side.
And give us an update on it. I haven't, he hasn't been out of my side. Yep. I've told you that many times. I've told everyone.
He hasn't been in my side all preseason.
Look, I just can't not have him. Yep. That's my theory.
I like it. So I like Casey McLean. I like Jack Cole. I like these people that have come in. I think Isaiah Papali is a watch. Luron Patea, hard avoid, in my opinion.
Yep.
But over to the Sharkies.
Can I just add? I just wanted to say for those that want to start with Isaiah Yeo, I see no issue with that. I see
100%.
no role change. I think he gets exactly the same amount of minutes, exactly the same amount of work. If you're the type of person who goes, I don't know what to do, I don't know which one of these back rowers is safest, that's your man.
He's someone I like.
You can't have them all, Savs.
Actually, yeah, he's someone I like so much. He's, you've got Dane Laurie on the bench, number 14. He's not a genuine number 9 cover. So,
well, I think they're going to do that regardless. So even if at some point that becomes Talangi, or Talangi takes over and Cole drop, I think they will this year. I think they'll run something like that all year
Trent
long.
Talau again as well. So Luron Patea, he's obviously going to play probably. If they're putting someone in their 17, they're probably going to play a little bit of minutes, like 20, 30 minutes.
He's been okay when he's played before. It's just that Liam Henry's going to come back into that.
Exactly.
And Jesse McLean, I don't think you can touch at the moment. People were talking about having him as your Gagai from last year, sitting there because at some point.
I don't like that.
I'm worried about it now. This has scared me off him.
100%. Like playing Luke Garner over him just says a lot. To be honest.
I think so. Yep.
All right, let's go with the Sharkies. Will Kennedy gets the fullback spot. He was someone who potentially was going to lose the spot, but huge there. Sam Stonestreet and Ronaldo Mulitalo on the wings. I'm very keen on Sam Stonestreet. Let's talk about him. Jesse Ramian and Cale Ira. I'm very keen on both of these. Let's talk about him. Brady Trindle and Nico Hines. Just sold Nico Hines to get Nathan Cleary into my side. So, let's talk about him. Adam Fanil-Blake and Oregon Kaufusi start. We've got to talk about Adam Fanil-Blake because there's something interesting here. Blake Brayley at number 9. Brinton Nicoran, Teague Wilton on the edges. Cam McInnes starts at lock. Daniel Atkinson is their 14, so they didn't run with a bench utility last year. We thought Adam Fanil-Blake was going to get less minutes. All of a sudden, we've got Talakai, who fills in on an edge. Usually doesn't really come through the middle too much for too many minutes. We've got Haminduele, who doesn't play many minutes. We've got Hazelton, who plays pretty good minutes, to be honest. I wasn't expecting this. Their number 14, Daniel Atkinson, coming into the side. So I think it reads well for Fanil-Blake. Yeah,
it does, but I think it just means, Nicola and Wilton are going to play 80. We pretty much know that. Yep. I think it just means that Talakai's in the middle rotation, at least to start the year, until something goes wrong. I feel sorry for the guy in the 18, and I hope I don't butcher this, Tukuhau Tapua. He is a serious footballer, and I don't think he's far away from cracking. They may go weeks where they do go 4 forwards against a different pack. I'm surprised they didn't do it against Penrith, but I get the Atkinson pick. I think, to your original point, AFB is probably going to play a few more minutes. I don't disagree with that.
I don't think he's going to play the 60 minutes he did last year, but I think between 50 and 55 maybe.
Well, it looked like at one point he might have been stuck right around 50 or even just under. Probably around. I don't think he would have played less than 50, but I can see mid-50s now for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
The person that's done harshly here, Jaden Beryl, number 21.
Good football.
Stuck behind one of the best 9s in the competition.
Well, Beryl's getting offers from other teams, so
He is?
Yeah, from what I understand, he's had a few offers.
I like it.
And so Black Book that, Timmy, and but for 2026.
Timmy's been very high on him for a long time.
Good footballer.
Sam Stonestreet, number 2 for the Sharkies. I'm very keen on him. He is quite overpriced. He's at that 509K mark, but he's actually priced less than what he averaged last year. So in games where he played on the wing, he averaged 65. So he's about 15 points underpriced. He's playing on Nico Hines' side, which is Sione Katoa last year averaged, I think it was 63 versus 48 when Nico Hines wasn't in the side. So it's a significant difference. We know the combination that Nico Hines has with his winger is very significant, just like SJ had with Dallin, Ben Hunt with Zach Lomax. I think that's the kind of vibe Nico Hines loves, the cutout ball to his winger. Scores last year, 41, 50, 75, 79, 80. He's a footballer. I think we're going to be having conversations when Sione Katoa comes back. How do you drop this kid? And he's going to want to prove it. The thing that's tricky is he plays Penrith round 1.
That's one of the things that's tricky. The other one is that he scored 8 tries in 5 games to get that 65-point average. His base power is not horrendous, but it's around 30. It's pretty low. Can he score 8 tries every 5 games for the rest of his career? If so, he's probably potentially the best winger of all time. But look, I've got nothing against. I actually would group all 4 of the Sharks backline together and say I don't actually have an issue with anyone starting with any of them. I don't see significant upside early in the season, but I see that they could be someone you could just plug in. The guy that I like, or the guy that I've got numbers on, is Kale Iro.
I love Iro.
The reason for that is it took him a little while to find attacking stats last year, and his base power was elite. He's excellent. So much so that he only averaged 60 over the first 10 rounds, or I think 12 rounds. He then averaged 69 from that point for the rest of the season, and over the last 7 or 8 rounds, he averaged nearly 80. So I guess, and I've looked at the numbers for the other Sharks backs, eerily similar in that they had patches where you just got to get them on a run, right? And maybe they're like a number of other teams. They're a side that you want to really cash in on when they're beating up teams back end of Origin or post Origin.
Yeah. I'm very hot on Mulatalo for that reason because he's been the start of the season, like really hot guy the last 2 years. He averaged 90 in his first 6 or 7 rounds last year.
And look at how Trindle and Hines played together in those rounds. Like they that was their best period. That was when they were both healthy. There was no drug-related, injury-related, confidence-related issues. The Sharks were flying. I think the Sharks are primed to be the side that starts the hottest.
Yeah.
They just have Penrith in round 1. It's a tough...
And I think they win.
I think I have them as well. Yep. I think they do. I think nothing against Penrith because Ivan knows all, but they've had a weird preseason setup, and it reminds me, I was saying to someone yesterday, it reminds me a bit of the Aussies leading up to the cricket summer in the test matches. They didn't... most of the players weren't playing, like they didn't play much beforehand, and the first test we got hammered, and then we flogged them. And maybe I wonder if Penrith may be similar boat. They're not too fussed about Vegas. They use, obviously they want to win. They're Penrith, but they know they get a week off after that. Maybe their true round 1 is their round 2 match against the Roosters, and maybe they just want to get through this, hopefully play good football, but they're not here where the Sharks are. They're not right at the top.
This is their trial match.
Whereas the Sharks have played similar to the Dragons, have played quite strong teams, and maybe they're primed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. They're September footy players. They're waiting for September. Obviously, you've got to win some games in between now and September to get to September. But yeah, for me, I think that makes perfect sense. They might be a bit rusty, but they're still the Penrith side. We've seen the last few years they've lost the World Club Challenge. They've lost round 1 in the last 2 years. But we're meant to be talking about the Sharks here. I guess with the Sharks, like Iro is someone who I think we're going to want at some point. He's the kind of guy who doesn't really need to be on a run, and his scores are still very good. Yeah. What was his base in power last year? Like over 45?
Yeah, nearly. I think over 50.
Yeah,
he's ridiculous. But
he's ridiculous.
But he also did. It took him a while to find those attacking stats. As I said, he averaged nearly 80 for the last 8 weeks. So.
But did it take him a while because, all the halves, Brad and Trindle coming in and out, and also he just came in, so he's learning everything else. I think now that he's come in, he knows Brad and Trindle's when he's going to go, when he's going to show and go and all that sort of stuff. He could be the guy we need to start with.
Yeah, he could well be. I'm not going to start with a Shark, not because I actually think all 4 of them or any of the 4 of them could go fantastically to start. I can't pay that price for someone who they haven't really had much change. That's a good thing. I think it's underrated in the NRL. Yeah. How keeping a team very similar from one year to the next year is actually beneficial. Yep. But in the SuperCoach world, it's just you've only got so much money to spend at the start of the year, and you've got to work out where to put it.
Yep. I think we're done with team list.
Yep.
Anyone else you want to touch on?
No, I think you can say, look, we could maybe just squeeze Blake Brayley. I was keener on him when I thought it was going to be 4 forwards, but I don't think Atkinson's going to steal minutes off him. I don't know what Atkinson's role is going to be. I think it's just to be there in case of injury or to float if they need extra ball playing or something like that.
Yeah, they're behind in the game. Need
I mean,
a bit of spark.
Blake Brayley has played 80 minutes every game that he hasn't gotten injured in, or minus a couple of late restings for 3 or 4 straight years. I think his role's safe. He's been someone who's people have been keen on. He averaged 57 and 59 the 2 years prior to last year. Everyone's talking about Adam Fanua-Blake, and you wanted to as well. I'll let you finish on him in a sec. But everyone's talking about
We just talked about his minutes.
Okay.
We know what he
Everyone's
can do.
talked about the impact of those guys in terms of Brayley's attacking stats. I think it's probably there. I think there's a world that he goes back to averaging late 50s or 60 or whatever it is. That's about 7 points of difference from what he's priced at. I've got no issue with people starting with him if they are still panicking at this hooker position, but we've started to see some of the cheapies actually look good. So that's all. That's all from me.
Yep, 100% agree. I was very keen on Blake Brayley, and probably every other year would have probably started with him, but I think there's too many options at the hooker spot. All right, we're going to go over the top 10 owned and just go through it, just have a quick word on it.
You don't want to go through the top 5 buys of the list first?
Yeah. Sorry, I skipped that
That's
part.
okay.
Who are the top 5 buys that you think are for round 0?
Well, the 5 interesting ones that I've got, and I've gone for that more than, I think more the ones that you can either lock in or keep a really close eye on. I think Horsburgh and Metcalf are the 2 standouts for mid-range sort of cheapies. I think you've got to keep an eye on Owen Paddy this week. I'm not saying buy. Maybe that's an unfair term, but on the serious watch list. And then I've got Hines and Cleary. I think there's a message for everyone. My message to everyone in this week. Maybe this is where we can talk about that tactic. I don't think you should lock in people who you're iffy on in this week, because there'll probably be people who you're similarly iffy on next week, but at least you've got more options. I think this week you have to pick and lock in only your certainties. And with that, be very careful about the cheapies that you've got on your bench or the people that are placeholders, or whether you've got them in your starting team or on the bench. Make sure you set your team. I know it's a bit more towards the people who haven't played much before, but just make sure you set your team up so that the guys who are playing this week are in your starting team, even if they're not the highest priced player in their position or the best option in that position. If you want them to play this week, put them in your starting side. Do not fall for that.
Unless you're planning on captaining someone next week, and that conflicts
that
with
position conflicts with that.
Yep.
Absolutely agree. Just those are some more, and something that probably doesn't get talked about as much on podcasts because it's more for beginners a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Tactics of how to set your team up and stuff.
And because we haven't talked about it on the podcast, I've been called out a couple of times. It hasn't affected me too greatly. But yeah, I've been called out a couple of times. I'm with you on the same buys for this week. I think Aaron Clark was on my list prior to team lists, but I agree with you there. He's not in my side.
There's probably a couple of other guns who we know are guns, but they're probably they'd be on. If you were just going no money, no value, no nothing, guys like Isaiah Yeo and stuff would be awesome. But I think those are the ones to keep an eye on.
I do like Ali Leotawa, but for some reason, just a part of me is kind of saying, I don't know.
I think you can have him or RTS in that top. If I said Paddy was more a watch list and not a buy, I'd definitely probably prioritize those 2 guys.
All right, top 10 owned players. We got Yongi at 58.6% owned. 70,000 people own him, so obviously everyone hasn't made their teams yet, or maybe that's what it is. Isaiah Yongi, we've talked about it. Obviously, it depends on team structure and how you've gone about it, but can't fault he's looked good in the trials. Yeah,
I mean, everyone was a bit off him after the first trial. This is how fickle people can be, and it was Kelma Tuolangi copped the same treatment, but in reverse.
Ruben Garrick too.
Yeah, Ruben Garrick. You got to look at the underlying stats of people. Like, I know Kelma can go missing, for example, and I agree with it, but his base power is actually pretty good. It's actually higher than a lot of people think, and that's all. If you got minutes, that's all you need. Now, if your argument is he was so bad that he'll get dropped, I'm with you. That's fair if they're those sorts of things. But Iongi first trial, I actually thought he wasn't that bad. He just, if you watch the game, he didn't get any ball early because they didn't have any ball early.
Yeah.
He had a really good try assist. Last game, he got the minutes, and they didn't play Joash Popal. Like, he only played 25 or 30 minutes in the first trial.
Yeah.
This game, he got the minutes, and pretty much everything he got in the red zone, he iced. He was really good.
I am worried about, Parramatta playing 100% versus, what percentage are the opposition's playing? Are they playing, we're playing the Tigers?
The Tigers who I thought were
very good.
Yeah, I thought it was actually a really good footy match.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my only worry. But he's got all the ingredients, so I think that's all we need to see.
They play the Storm away in round 1, and if you start with him and don't want to play him, I get it. There's no issue with that. But at this point in time, if it was him or Duffy as your cheapy in those spots, I would actually go Iongi. I think he's so much more locked in and so much better base
I'm so
power.
confident he averages 50.
At least, I think. And you just got to stomach the point. Like, you got to make the points up somewhere else.
Yeah. Sandons and Robert Toya will put in, I guess, the same category. Sandon starting half, goal kicking. Toya starting centre, 50% owned and 50.5% owned. A lot of people were off Sandon just because he wasn't getting ball. The Roosters look bad. But I think just the role is there. So someone like him and Toya will get enough ball to potentially get heaps of attacking stats.
Yeah. The Roosters, again, I mean, he's the goal kicker for the Roosters. Yeah. I'm not saying that means he's suddenly going to average 70, but if Sandon averages less than 45, which is a 200K increase, what more can you want?
And he could score 30 in the first 3 weeks, and I'd still be confident that I'll cash him out for a good price. And I guess the difference is between Toya, Sandon versus a cheapy back rower who doesn't have base and relies on attacking stats. That cheapy back rower in a bad side is probably not likely to get heaps of attacking stats, whereas in the spine and in center, you're going to get attacking stats. Like, it's just unheard of for someone not to get an attacking stat over 10 weeks.
Yeah, unless you play on the left wing for the Dragons when Ben Hunt's in your team, then you don't. True. But you're right. That's exactly how it works. Like, those guys will fall into stats at points or they might need some luck, but they'll probably find that luck out there.
Terrell May at 48.8%. Can't fault it at all.
I honestly haven't. Look, I know there's been some other front rowers pop up, like as in that Stefano people are keen on. Tino's been around the whole preseason, and the cheapies, but I just don't understand how people don't have him in. He should be nearly 100% owned.
Yep, agree. We do a consensus side on our Patreon. We're up to second roles at the moment. We've got to get a massive move on that this week.
People were just waiting for team list, mate. That's all it was.
Yeah, but pretty much every front row combo was Terrell May and Corey Horsburgh. Corey Horsburgh is at number 8 at 44.7%. So I'm just pairing them together. I think very similar for the role. We've talked about him. We've got Purdue at number 5, 46.1%. Looked amazing on the weekend. He's
looked amazing when he's played last year. He just he's just been thrown around into different spots, and he's one of those guys that fits he's a footballer role. Like, he's played about 3 different positions coming through the grades. As soon as we heard that he was locked in, if you don't have him in your centre wings, again, you're just missing. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. You don't anti-pod these guys.
No, 100%. Luke Metcalf, 443, 45.1% goal kicking, playing halfback. He's someone I'd kind of considered anti-podding because I just don't I think he's 100% going to make money and potentially average 55. But if he makes 120K, it's not really game changing in disposition. Like, I like Burden, I like Brown, I like Dewey. I like Metcalf more than Dewey, to be honest. I just think there's more security.
Yeah, I agree.
But there was a world where I wanted Burton and Brown. I don't want that anymore. But it could go Chanel Harris-Tavita instead of a Metcalf. But Metcalf's so playable.
I think you can. The thing is, with all these positions, you can make all these cases. You just have to work out where you're going to fit your cheapies in and where you're going to make your money. The point of SuperCoach is you have to make money. You have to. You don't win SuperCoach by having the highest team value. But I tell you what, it goes a hell of a long way to helping at certain points of the year when other people are looking at someone worth 500K and you go, I've got 300K in the bank. I can get Dave Fafita in now when he's about to go on. All those sorts of things. Like, it's not money ball, but you've got to make your money somewhere. I think Metcalf's just safe. I think that's the other thing. If you're looking for higher upside, it might be there. Yeah. But I think he's safe.
Yeah. 100% agree. We got Kalen Ponga at Cleary at number 7. We've talked about Cleary.
Yes.
I think, geez, that's a tough antipod at 44.9% if you go on that.
But I mean, that's the price range where you antipod people. I think high owned people in the 700 or 700K range. I think that's where you want to antipod.
I'll tell you what, it's a fair antipod though, because I haven't had him in my side the whole preseason, and I'm not expecting a big score from him in the first 3 weeks, but I know straight after that, at least, we talked about it every year. Started at least the first round, he's gone pretty shit. Yep. But he warms into it.
He does have a slow start in him, but as you said, do you cost yourself a trade, and how do you work your team balance if you're trying to get him in by round 4 and you start with Hines?
Well, last year I did exactly the same thing. I rushed to get him in round 2. I used a boost.
Yeah.
Got him Corey Jensen, who was a dud for me.
I think I rushed to get him in round 3 when he got that 100 against the Broncos and then got injured in that game.
Yeah, so he...
or was that round 2? I think it was round 3.
No, round 2, he scored 75 against Parramatta, but he just looked so
He looked
good.
unreal. That's why I rushed
so
to get him in the week.
I don't know why I rushed to get him in by round 2, but I captained him. I was going to the game.
There you go. Typical Savs. Numbers don't matter. It's all about vibes.
Number 9, Kalen Ponga, 790,341.8%. He's in my side now. I think with the Latrell news, it makes sense. He looks really good too.
Yeah, I mean, most people are, clearly he's the highest owned fullback. Maybe it's just because he's a bit cheaper than Turbo. Yep. I think Turbo's got a lot of things going for him. But Ponga does too. And the Knights actually look pretty good. Fletcher Sharp on that left edge, which is his preferred. Gamble not in the side. I think we talked about that last time I was here.
With Cogger in the side?
With Gamble out or Gamble staying away on the right side, and the instructions from Adam O'Brien get Sharp and Ponga the ball, they're a much better side. A much better side.
I think so too. And having Sharp there, who's an attacking threat, just takes away from Ponga a little bit.
Absolutely.
Which
Sharp's pace on the inside shoulder there gave him some. Hey, look at it. Look at the weekend. Like the Roosters are not that bad of a defensive side. They're not as good as they once were, but they're not that bad. The Knights actually tore them to shreds, not the other way around. And Sharp did it by attacking Chad Townsend, who had no answers for him.
There's going to be a lot of sides I'm really excited to watch this year, and Newcastle are one of them.
If they play this structure, agree.
And Tino is number 10, 33.5% owned, 530K, second row, front row. A lot of value there. He got some minutes on the weekend, which was a good sign too. Yeah,
he only played one stint because they just obviously only needed him to do that. There's lots of people saying that he's going to start with 30 minutes. Maybe he does. He's a great anti-pod.
Yeah, I'm anti-podding at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm trying to rush him to get him in round 4.
Yeah, I'd probably say maybe even. But the thing is, like with the reasoning behind anti-podding him, which is expected lower minutes, that's a solid reason I get. And I've got him in my side at the moment. He's in my front row. And I'll talk to that in a minute. But the reason that he's in my side is only to save a trade. I actually think I will cost myself some points early, potentially, because I'm saving that trade. But I just think if I can get him in my side with Terrell and Horse, I'm not touching my front row till at least Origin.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'm sure there's a fair few people out there. Front row has either been one of two things the last 2 years or 3 years. You've either set and forget it and you're happy starting with a Haas or someone like that and you don't touch it till Origin, or you've tried to play Moneyball and you've started with Welch and you've started with Flegler and things have gone to water very quickly.
Yep.
And that's those are the way I've seen it this year is bugger that. I'm starting with guys that I know will get great roles, great minutes, and I'm not touching it.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's it. Let's do tipping point. Today's players, Luke Metcalf, Nico Hines, Nathan Cleary, Owen Paddy. I think it's a pretty solid foundation to start off with. And they're all in your top 5 purchases.
They are, funnily enough. And I didn't add that until I did my purchases completely separately. Yep. I hadn't even looked at tipping point until just now. So this is the first time I've seen they're in there. So there you go.
Very good. I should have put Horsburgh in there.
Well, you would have got all 5 of them.
Oh, we probably need to be honest, because we don't want it to be a tiebreaker.
Okay, well, we can do 5. That's fine.
We usually do 3, but I did 4
Horse
for some reason.
That's fine.
All right. Okay, Luke Metcalf, let's start at 45 points.
Metcalf, I'll go overs and I'll go 50.
Or I'll go over. I'll go 52.
I kind of think you might go over that.
Go over?
Yeah, I think I will. I'll go overs. I'll go 55.
All right, I'll go under 55.
Okay.
Let's go Nico Hines. Let's set the line at 30.
Oh, really? Well, I'll save us some time and go up. I think he'll actually score pretty well this week. So I'm going to go overs and I'm going to go over 60.
I'll go under 60.
Okay.
He doesn't average. He averages 33 versus Penrith.
Yep. I'm leaning towards the Sharks starting being ahead. That's it. And the fact it's in Vegas.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. If I'll tell you what, if this was in Sydney, I would be backing the Panthers all day long.
Yeah, you're probably right. Nathan Cleary, let's start at 50 points.
I'll go overs and go 65.
I'll go over 65. I'll go 70. And that's just because he's in my side.
I'll take unders on 70.
Yeah, all right.
I was going to go a little higher, but I'll take that, I think.
All right, no worries. Oh, and Paddy, let's start at 23.
Over 25.
Over 25.
Yeah, I'll say over 25.
I'll go under 25.
Okay, I'll take you.
And then we've got Horsburgh. Let's start at 55.
I'll take unders.
Oh, okay. I'll go over. So that's pretty good. Over 55. So Grant, Luke Metcalf, I've got under 55. You've got over. Nico Hines, I've got under 60. You've got over. Nathan Cleary, I've got over 70. You've got under 70. Owen Paddy, you've got under 25. I've got over. Oh, sorry. I've got under 25. Yeah. You've got over. Corey Horsburgh, I've got over 55. You've got under. So we'll put a graphic out for that later in the week. And started the ball rolling for Tipping Point. How good? Who's your vice captain and captain? Obviously, it's a split round, so you might not have anyone from this weekend involved. But still tell me your plans.
No, that's okay. So do you want me to talk to my team and then do that? And the only reason is otherwise I'll be giving up bits and pieces. But you know what? Look, I'll do it.
We're doing it separate.
Cool, that's fine. I've got vice captain at the moment. I've got Cleary, but I'm tossing up, and my captain's Terrell May. And I know you and I have both talked about this, and we're I think maybe the only two people on the planet at the moment with that as the way. Although I'm sure lots of people will go that. I know you were there. Maybe you've changed.
No. I had a dream you scored 108. So
that's good.
Yeah,
well, that's a great sign. And I know you're after you picked Latrell last year. I'm hoping that I'm just going to follow you wherever you go.
Oh, my computer died.
That's okay. So, can maybe do you know who yours are?
Yeah, I know who mine are.
Okay. Do you want to give me yours, and then maybe we can talk to the reasoning?
Mine are exactly the same as yours.
You're on the same, right? So maybe we can talk to the reasoning behind that a little bit, so people can understand what the theory is. So I am the biggest, and I know you are a huge chasing the highest score kind of guy. You proved that all last year, including round one when you picked Latrell. The only
captain him.
Yeah, but just picking guys who you thought were going to start with a big score really early.
Yep.
And I'm trying to do bits and pieces of that this year. But captain-wise, round 1, round 2, and round 3, specifically round 1, are historically lower scoring than any other round, outside of injuries and weird things that happen. But just as a general SuperCoach round, it's the lowest scoring round. To the point that the great fullbacks, the great halves, all have struggled to start. Now, you'll always get like random wingers who score a double in round 1 and stuff like that.
Michaeli Ravalawa.
Yep, there's a prime example. Well, Mulatalo starts hot every year, including round 1. Like, those things happen.
Jack Reed
want to start solid.
Yeah.
So I still want the upside of my VC, and I do think this year with the flex that not just the flex, but the way the AE works with the 18 players, and the way that even if you drop one of your 18 and get a 0 in the 18 picked players, an AE still comes in. So it's not, you still have 18 scores. I know that's going to be quite low at the start of the year. One of my players will probably start with a 13 or 17 or something, but you've got 18 scoring options. Your AE will drop out even if you do loop. Like the loop is I'm telling you right now, the loop is going to be way more prevalent this year. Like
100%.
3-4 times as often you'll use it. But I'm just adding the round 1 caveat. So I've gone, I have Ponga and Turbo, who I think both have great matchups, and I'm still tossing up whether I go that way. But I think Terrell May will get 70 this week, and I think for round 1 I'd be happy with that. What I'd be miserable with was if I got both of those fullbacks started with 55 and 52, and I'm mid-pack to start. Yeah,
well, so last year I vice captain Latrell. He scored 110, and it felt like, I'm a big advocate for these round 1 scores are a lot lower than every other round, just because people are getting the cobwebs out of in between their legs.
And the defenses, and not only their cobwebs between their legs, but their defenses are actually, like most teams aren't going to get blown out in round 1.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And the fullbacks are notorious for scoring big because teams just give up after they've put a score on them. They won't do that in round 1. People want to keep their spots. So, Latrell scored 110 in the first round, and I considered looping, and I was sold on looping for the week. And I didn't loop because I'm like, these Vegas scores were so big. Maybe the trends finally bucked. Came back to Sydney, and it was just dog shit. I captained Nico Hines for 32 points. Yep. So I chased that upside, and I missed out on 80 points, well, potentially there. So for me, Terrell May is the perfect type of person who he's probably going to get the minutes. He's got a base of like, he scored 55 in one half in the trials, and they don't even count runs over 8 meters.
Yeah, they don't add that. Or offloads. Yeah, how crazy is that?
He probably scored more than 55 points in that first half.
I just think he's a beast.
And I had a dream he scored 108. So I think that just reaffirmed that he's got to be my captain round one. Latrell was going to be my captain round one, and I was going to vice captain Terrell May. But
yeah, it would have worked.
That's out the window.
Yep.
I'm vice captaining Cleary because he's the only one that plays before him.
Yep. Could we VC Terrell and C Turbo? Is there a drop?
6 o'clock Friday.
And when's Turbo play?
Pretty sure he plays. Hold on, let me find that out.
Just thinking, and now this is thinking about it because I've actually thought.
So he plays Friday 6 o'clock
against Ponga. So you can't, if you have Ponga, you can't do that.
So
but
there's a Thursday game, Roosters versus Broncos. So I can vice captain Walsh.
Okay, that's not a bad option.
Yeah,
I like that as well.
I don't mind that, but I also like the Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Las Vegas.
If you've got Cleary, I'm vice. That's what I'm going to do. But if I owned Walsh, I'd understand that.
Yep.
What about VC May C Turbo and taking a solid VC? Is that an option?
Oh,
is that too safe for you?
With the VC this year, I think going Terrell May is safe as it is. Yep. Like he's going to score at least 70. I feel like he's got that upside as well. Like it's not like Yo where he probably doesn't score a try, but he'll get you 70.
Yep.
Terrell May, he's every chance of scoring a try against Newcastle. Depends how Newcastle are, to be honest. But I'm like looking at the captain stats right now. No one's really set their captain, to be honest. Tom Trbojevic is number 1 at 18%. Cleary at 15%. Ponga at 13%. Terrell May is all the way down at 37th at 0.2%. Obviously, people just haven't set their teams. But like, if that won't stay like that, but if that is anything close to it, then, geez, I shouldn't be letting out my secrets.
Well, how long ago did we talk about that? I reckon it's been over a month that we were pretty set on that after looking at the round 1 and 2 sort of overall scores.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share if people want to do it, but you know. Anything can happen. Look, I have no issue if people go the double of VC Walsh, VC Cleary, VC Ponga into Captain Turbo, Captain whoever else you got playing. There's so many good options.
That makes sense though, right?
Yeah. The options are great, right? You've got so many high scoring on paper options, but we've seen time and time again it doesn't happen like that round 1. Historically.
Yep. I remember I was on a cruise for round 1 once and I captained I think Corey Parker, just because I was like, I wanted it safe, and he was like the safe option, and he still scored really low for that round 1. I was so disappointed because I was like, I didn't try and go the upside because I was trying to be safe, but there's also a year I chose it 2 months out. I was like, I'm captaining Cameron Murray round 1. He scored 85, had a try assist against the Sharks. I was at a venue in Penrith. I was absolutely plastered, and I saw he got 85.
Drink responsibly.
Yeah, I saw he got 85, and I was actually quite happy with it because that's what I was after, and it was probably the best captain option for me that week as well. So played safe round 1, but if you do want to take a risk, just know what you're really gambling with for free and confidential support.
Call us. Hey, just on that, can I just add, I wouldn't recommend guys like Yo and Hopgood and those sorts of guys, not just because they lack the upside that you were talking about, but because if any players or the majority of the middles will not play as many minutes in round 1, generally just it's warmer, especially the ones playing here versus say Vegas. It's quite warm like this time of year. You saw how many heat exhaustions were there in the trials? So many.
Yeah.
The forwards were pretty good, but most of them start a little slow. I just don't think Terrell will. I think he bucks when I say that I'm thinking of captaining Terrell, I mean him specifically, not just any safe forward, because I think he's got the minutes in him, I think he's got the work rate, and I think he's got the holy trinity, and the third one is he's got attacking upside.
And he's got the redemption arc.
Absolutely.
I guess Isaiah Yo, round 1, though. It's a bit colder over there. He's got Dane Laurie on the bench. He's also got that new bloke, Patera, whatever his name is.
Pataya.
Pataya, whatever.
Poor bugger. He's got friends and family probably listening to the show. Shout out Liron Pataya. I got your name right. It's all right.
I think Yo's not a bad option either, but I just think Terrell May is more likely for that attack.
Yeah, as I said, maybe I'm thinking more like if we look at future years moving forward, like it's and a guy like specifically. As well. Yeah, it's a guy like Terrell May. I'm not saying I wouldn't have an issue if someone said to me they were captaining Yo because I think that you're not going to be behind the 8 ball.
Yes.
You're probably not going to be way in front either. It's
going to be like 20 points difference at best.
That's what I think.
I think in later weeks, you definitely target the fullbacks and Yo, and even probably May to an extent.
I'll tell you right now.
Question because the AFB, like I've never considered captaining AFB.
Maybe in a bye round, maybe. But that's it. Yeah, you're not in a regular.
But Terrell May, I think he's going to be different.
Yeah, very much so. But like for me, already next week, we talked about Panthers playing the Roosters. Cleary will have my VCLC. Yeah, that's a given. You know,
I feel so good. I'm starting with Cleary.
Yeah, I hope it's helped you. But look, and the reason for that is, and probably my other VCLC I'll probably already jump to fullback and Cleary or whatever because I look at the Roosters next week and I think the Panthers. I think Cleary's floor goes from against the Sharks this week maybe 35-40 to Roosters next week probably 50. And I'm happy with a floor that early of 50. I'm just not, not this week. This week's tough.
I'm a bit rattled now, because I did my team reveal before and I had Hines, not Cleary. And now I'm uploading it Wednesday with a different... it's still
Why don't you add a note? Can you add a note to your video or anything like that? Maybe you can just, hey, I've made some minor changes here. Here's what they are.
I'm starting with Cleary. I'll just put that over the top.
Yeah, do that.
All right, that's it for the podcast. We're going to do your team reveal next, but watch out for that during the week. We're uploading to the feed, the YouTube feed and the audio feed. We're going to have 1 or maybe even 2 uploads some days every day. We've got so much content coming out this week. We've got tomorrow, me and Big Les did our season predictions for the NRL season. Nice. So that's a 25-minute episode. So that is tomorrow afternoon. We'll have your team reveal at some point. We've got my team reveal at some point. We've got the Master Wolf's updated team reveal. He got absolutely peppered for his first one. I guarantee you it's a lot better this time. We're doing I think we're going to do a draft. Draft.
Any of the other boys doing a team reveal? You surely
not that I know of. No,
that's soft. I think,
but it might be next. They might do it next week.
Well, that's just a little call out from me. I think you guys have been soft, and maybe you should do yours as well.
And we also got a Q&A episode coming, so keep an eye out for the content this week. We're gonna even have a drop on Saturday, and I might even if there's that much content, I might even drop something on Sunday morning. Big week. I'm glad the TLT is done and dusted, and we've just got. Sit back, relax, enjoy the footy on Sunday, and then another whole lot of headache comes into the second week.
Absolutely, but you know what? Footy's back, and
footy's back.
It feels pretty good.
Feels good. All right, thank you for jumping on. We'll see you next week. We'll see you probably in 12 hours. See you guys.